Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. So, I spent like 6 hours diving through the patch notes, the campfire chat, and all the stuff that they, put out, as well as some time afterward as well. And I kind of wanted to do a recap, but it's going to be kind of impossible to do a full recap of this in any short period of time. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my overall impressions for the patch and what I think about the patch, both in terms of, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Etc. So first off, let's tackle the elephant in the room. Is this a good patch or is this a bad patch? Is it a positive thing overall or is it a negative thing overall? In my opinion, this patch is a positive patch overall. It is a huge patch of changes and fixes that will go a long way, in my opinion, to making the game better. Are there some things in the patch which could be potentially considered to be negative? Maybe. We don't know until we actually get into the game and test some of this stuff out. One of the most controversial ones is basically the nerf to vulnerable damage. Basically, what they did is they made it so that vulnerable damage and crit damage are capped at an exact percentage, which basically prevents vulnerable damage and crit damage from really doing a huge amount of additional damage. You can't really stack massive amounts of multipliers anymore like you could before, which is really just something I think they never really intended anyway. So people who were killing Uber Lilith in like 10 seconds, Diablo 4 dev teams looking straight at you with this change. They also made a couple changes to some skills to cap off the total multipliers that you could get from them, like the Rampaging Werebeast and the Wrath of the Berserker on the Barbarian, which both were for some reason scaling to 990%, and now they no longer are. Whether or not that these changes right here are going to hugely and negatively impact the rest of the game, I don't really know. I feel like this is really only going to hurt the players that were stacking these particular buffs to the utmost and taking advantage of the bugged way that they interacted with each other. And that's basically what they said during the developer campfire. They actually pretty much said that the only class that was actually dishing out massive amounts of damage legitimately was the Bone Spear Necromancer. And apparently all the other classes that were dishing out massive amounts of damage and were able to kill, say, like Uber Lilith in like 10 seconds were doing so by exploiting a bug in the system that was not intended. I mean, this is their words, not mine. So essentially nobody who killed Uber Lilith in 10 seconds, with the exception of the Bone Spear Necromancer, was doing it in a legitimate fashion. Now, the Bone Spear Necromancer, they said, was actually legitimate. They had said that he was overtuned, and there's actually some nerfs in here to the Bone Spear Necromancer again. Ossified Essence, and one of the other ones, Serration passive, I think, also got a little bit of a nerf. So the Bone Spear Necromancer is going to get knocked down another peg. Obviously, this is also going to take the Bone Spear Necromancer down a peg as well. So I'm not really sure where the Bone Spear Necromancer stands at this point. He may not be the greatest choice for this latter season. Overall, the patch does not really consist of a lot of content. I feel like I need to point this out. And while the patch is definitely 100% just positive in my eyes, and a very good move in the right direction to mature the game into what it should have been at launch, I will, however, say that fixes are not features. And 90 to 95% of this patch is literally just bug fixes. And to kind of like point this out, the only things that's really new content for the most part is the new unique items. They did put quite a few new unique items in the game, as well as new legendary aspects. Some of these unique items are pretty darn cool, like the Tassets of the Dawning Sky, the Tusk Helm of Juritz, the Barbarian Helmet. There's also a pretty awesome Druid Amulet, which has the casting Boulder while Hurricane is active, causes your boulder to rotate around you, which is crazy. The Scoundrel's Leathers, which like spawn random traps and all sorts of other stuff. I mean, there's some pretty darn good uniques in here. I'm excited to kind of play around with those. And then the legendary aspects aren't bad either. There's a couple really good ones in here. They also added Diablo 3 legendary into the game, which is hilarious. If you guys remember Convention of the Elements, this is literally Aspect of the Elements. It's a slightly modified version of Convention of the Elements, and yeah, I mean it's basically the same thing. It's just slightly modified. There's another thing here, content-wise, which of course is the bosses that they added. Some of them are reused assets, like Varshan, which was from last season, so not really considering him like new content. But Duriel, even though he is a reused asset, is a new piece of content. So it's not exactly. I can't really say that the new bosses are all new content, but they are new-ish content, I guess. And it's definitely something fun that we can play around with. There is also the new kind of like Helltide-esque thing that's not really a Helltide. It's, part of the vampire stuff. And I mean, it's kind of new content, although it's also kind of just a recycled content from the Helltides. So, keeping that in mind. If we go into the actual season, which is right here, the Bite Down the Darkness in Blood, this is where you start to get a lot of the new content. So there is actually going to be like a quest line, obviously. If it's as short as the one for season one, though, it's probably not going to be all that much content, in my opinion. It'd be, we finished the whole quest line, the whole season quest line in like, I think, what was it, like a day? Didn't really take very long, and we were having fun watching the cutscenes and stuff, so it's not like we were rushing. The powers themselves represent quite a bit of new content. So these vampiric powers, there is quite a few vampiric powers that can be some very interesting effects. As you can clearly see, we have minor and major vampiric powers, and there's some pretty interesting ones here, especially for certain classes. Like there's a whole setup in here for like a Thorns Barbarian, where you have like increased, like 300% increased damage to chilled enemies. And then there's another one that increases, deals damage based on your maximum life as physical to nearby enemies, which is kind of like also going along with like a Barbarian Thorns build. Um, I mean, there's some pretty neat ones in here, like the Ultimate's cooldowns reductions, which could be very interesting for, say, like Rampaging Werebeast and Wrath of Berserker, which coincidentally also got nerfed. Or Rain of Arrows could be really interesting as well. That may maybe tied up with Word of a Khan, so that you could spam Rain of Arrows over and over again. There's a Bat Familiar that you can summon. There's all sorts of crazy stuff in here, and this is definitely some new content, new ways that you can build your characters, temporary ways, of course, that you can beef up your characters, and overall, it's definitely looks like there's going to be some fun here. Playing around with the powers themselves. Some of these, like this one right here, literally turns you into like a frenzy barbarian, which I think is pretty hilarious. I'm not really exactly sure, like how well these are going to work in game, because obviously we haven't tested these out yet, but it should be fun. There's also kind of like a whole new content thing with the fighting clones of yourself, which is kind of interesting. So there's basically gonna be like other characters that are corrupted essentially, and they're NPCs, but they're gonna have your powers. So you'd be fighting like a necromancer or a not paladin, but a necromancer, a rogue, a barbarian, etc. that are corrupted and have your own powers. So it should be interesting to see how those fights go when you're fighting like a copy of yourself, so to speak. These are the bosses that they've got. They've got a couple bosses. There's the Beast of Ice, Duriel, and then this one is brand new as well. So there's basically 3 new bosses and 2 recycled bosses. Is basically what I'm getting here. And each one of these is going to be dropping new stuff. They actually talked about how each one of the bosses is going to have a specific loot table of items that they're going to drop, and they kind of have this stuff here. So as you can see, Grigore is going to have like special drops, like he will have a higher chance to drop the Staff of Lama Sen, Isar Brise, etc. So depending on what you want to get your hands on, you have a higher chance of getting these uniques from this particular boss. So we're going to have like target farming, actual real target farming abilities in this next one. Echo of Varshan, as you can see, can drop like the Staff of Endless Rage, or Mad Wolf's Glee, Vasili's Prayer, etc. Obviously, this is going to be really nice for like the druids, for instance, that might want to get their hands on like the helmet that they always have trouble getting their hands on. So it looks like which one drops the beautiful helmet that they always want? Where is that one at? Mad Wolf's Glee, Vassal's Prayer. Nope, not on that one. Nope, not on that one. Huh. Wow, so the helmet that the druids always want is not on the list. That's really interesting. But Vassal's Prayer apparently is on there twice. Great Staff of the Crone is on there at the very least, but Vassal's Prayer is on there once, and Vassal's Prayer is on there twice. That's very quite sad. Maybe they replace Vassal's Prayer on one of these with um why can't I remember the name of it all of a sudden? But it's missing, obviously. It's the other one, the one that gives you like the Storm Wolf and stuff like that. That one's a pretty good one. But as you can see, you've got some options to try and target farm specific items. Like there's the Tassets of the Dawning Sky, which is one of the new legendary, unique items. And then you've got, like for instance, Frostburns come from a lot of these. Razor Plate from Lord Zir and so forth and so on. Duriel also has the ability now to apparently have a much higher drop rate for Uber Uniques. So we might actually see some Uber Uniques actually drop for the first time in like ever. Kind of excited about that, honestly. Like getting my hands on some of these Uber unique items. It'd be fun to do some videos on them. I think that's pretty much it for content. I mean, a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the patch, pretty much like 90 to 95% of the patch is fixes. And that's not necessarily like a horrible bad thing. For 90 to 95% of the patch to be fixes. I'm just trying to point out to you guys who may or may not, look at this patch and they say, oh my God, look at how ridiculously long this patch is. Look at how many notes they've got, how many changes they made. Like, oh my God, there's so much stuff that they added to the game. But I hate to say it, a lot of this stuff is not really like things that they actually added to the game. It's really just fixes to items that, fixes to things that should have been fixed a long time ago. As I read through here, a lot of this stuff, like most of this stuff, is really just like, hey, we finally fixed that thing that you've been waiting for us to fix for a very long time, and you guys are going to be happy. Like you can now zoom out on the mini map, and guess what? Now your armor works properly, and your resistances work properly. Congratulations! And guess what? Those uniques that sucked before, we kind of fixed those, and we made a lot of those uniques better. And overall, I think that it's a very very positive patch. This is what I was waiting for. To put it as simply as I possibly can, they said every single time they got an opening, right? They're like, well, that's coming in season 2. That's coming in season 2. Don't you? We're gonna get that in season 2. Like, oh yeah, we'll get the resistances put in season 2. And they put so much hype and they put so much emphasis on season 2. I was afraid that they were gonna let everybody down, and not deliver on the promises that they made. But I will put my foot in my mouth and say that I am wrong because obviously they have managed to deliver on a lot. I would definitely say that this patch is a win overall. Now, a lot of this remains to be seen until we actually get into the game. I want to get into the game and I want to actually start messing around with this stuff. So I will put a little pin in it and say, yes, everything looks very good on paper. And as of right now, I am very, very impressed with the patch as a whole. They have made significant progress to becoming a better game overall. And like I said in the previous video, the one where I called the Diablo 4 an early access game, this is just proof in the pudding in my eyes that Diablo 4 was released too early, because this is what we should have had when the game launched. And I know that might sound a little pompous or a little overconfident or cocky or whatever you want to call it, but I don't understand why we had to wait till season 2 to get, like decent resistances, or like a functioning search and filter bar inside the stash, and a lot of this stuff I feel like just should have been in the game to begin with. And one of my friends on Discord kind of made a joke, and he's like, you know what happened? He goes, the developers actually played their own game and they realized how bad it was, and they started making fixes. They're like, wow, this sucks. Let's fix this. And I mean, that's really what a lot of this stuff is hey, that sucks, let's fix it. And I think that if you played the game when the game launched, and you hop on and you play the game in season 2, I have a feeling that the game is going to be so different from when you first played it that I don't even know if you're gonna like. It's gonna be a much different experience in general. I'm kind of excited to eventually see what they create, like as time goes forward, because they're slowly starting to understand. They're slowly starting to get it. They're listening to the players, and they're understanding that some of these things are just borked and they just weren't working properly, and we needed to get them fixed. And now that they're getting fixed, well, we're doing some good stuff here. They're finally making some changes that are going in the right direction. Um, I can't remember. I was watching Asmongold's video, and he said something along the lines of, like he said positive changes, positive, like I can't remember what he said. Positive changes, like positive, affirmation or something like that. He's that if they do the right thing, then you have to show them that what they did was the right thing, right? So they're moving in the right direction, and we need to say, hey, you know, good job, you're moving in the right direction, and reward that we're moving in the right direction, so that in the future they continue in the right direction. If you want to go over this entire patch notes, I mean, this is extremely long, and there is so much in here. I do have a whole video up that's 6 hours long. It's not, you don't have to go through the entire 6 hours. You can fast forward, I think, after the campfire, and I start going over the patch notes. It's only like 3 or 4 hours, but I go over everything, and I mean everything. Um, Overall, though, it's a really good patch. It's one of the best patches I've seen in a long time. I feel like they addressed everything that needed to be addressed. They actually paid attention. They changed a lot of things that needed to be changed. They fixed a lot of things that needed to be fixed. Many of the bugs that I was encountering throughout the game have been addressed. The mini map has been addressed. The freaking resistances have been addressed. The lack of armor has been addressed, which was beefed up after the resistances were fixed. They also have a lot of interesting ways that you can continue to build damage output, even after the nerfs to Critical Strike and Vulnerable. I know it seems like Critical Strike and Vulnerable were nerfed pretty hard, but they also added in a lot of alternative ways that you could beef up things. Um, they also beefed up the Necromancer minions by quite a bit. And let me do like a quick overview of the changes for each class. So Barbarian got a lot of really nice buffs to Berserk, as well as some very interesting ways to generate additional multipliers and damage reduction increases and things like that. All classes across the board, by the way, got a very nice buff to Fortify creation, changing it from base life to maximum life, which will have a huge impact on how easily it is for you to generate Fortify. All in all, the Barbarian really kind of focused around fortification, berserking, and berserking bonuses. They did restore the of Ancestral Force, Ancient Quakes, to a more usable state, and quite a few of the unique items were buffed, like Ramalani's Magnum Opus got a pretty huge buff. They also beefed up Battle Trance by a pretty huge amount. Pretty much everything got some sort of change, which is going to make them better. Ancient's Oath looks absolutely amazing now. The Hellhammer actually looks pretty good too. Honestly, a lot of the Barbarian uniques you may want to give them a second look. The Druid got some pretty interesting changes as well. Both the Druid and the Barbarian got that cap put on their special ability, which prevents them from being able to hit the 990% multiplier cap. For the Barbarian, it was the Wrath of the Berserker, and for the Druid, it is the ability known as Raging Werebeast, right? Raging Werebeast, wherever that is. I'm sure I'll find it in here at some point. But Raging Werebeast got a cap put on him as well. There were some interesting little tidbits in here about Mad Wolf's Glee not working properly, the defense bonus, and apparently Mad Wolf's Glee and Insatiable Fury have both been fixed for their armor value. Apparently they weren't providing the armor value properly while in Werebear or Werewolf form, despite the fact that they were giving you that. Quite a few really nice buffs to like Storm's Companion, which might actually be usable now. Flesh Render, which has a really nice multiplier based on your willpower. Hunter's Zenith got some buffs. I don't even know if that one actually needed it. It was actually pretty good already, but now it's even better. They obviously the Druid got huge changes when it came to the Fortify. There's just like Fortify changes across the board for everything. Ravens got buffed again. Rabies got buffed. Earthen Bulwark got nerfed. So if you remember correctly, Earthen Bulwark used to have a scaling damage based on the monster's life. They actually removed that. So previous, your Earth skills damage to enemies affected by crowd control. Now, where is it? There's the aspect of the Raging Werebeast cap at 200%. They had it in here somewhere. It might be down in the next section. But basically, Earthen Bulwark had a explosion, and the explosion was scaling based on the monster's HP and not of your weapon damage. So now it's actually going to scale based off of your weapon damage, which is a nerf to the ability because it would hit really freaking hard versus higher level monsters, which is, yeah. They also made this pretty crazy change to Druid, which I do think I need to highlight, which is... Where is it? Nature's Fury right here. Casting an Earth skill, 30% chance to trigger a free Storm skill of the same category and vice versa, which is already what it did. These free skills count as both Earth and Storm skills. So this right here, this change right here is pretty massive for the Nature's Fury builds. It's going to offer you some pretty crazy damage output, in my opinion, if you're going to do some pretty crazy Nature's Fury builds, because when you cast your Earth, it's going to also count as a Storm skill, and when you cast your Storm skills, it's also going to count as an Earth skill for the free skills that come from the trigger, which is going to be pretty crazy. I think that's pretty much it for the Druid. Now, the Necromancer... The Necromancer, they seem to focus almost entirely around the minions. I think this is the patch of the Necromancer minions, because not only has the Necromancer gotten some pretty crazy buffs like the Death's Defense passive becoming permanent, they have also gotten some crazy buffs to the minions themselves, like consolidating all of the Thorns minion buffs into one minion inherit Thorns, giving the new affix, which allows the minions to inherit critical strike chance, also making it so that all blood orbs will now heal your minions. There's just like tons and tons and tons of freaking things here that are increasing the minions. This one right here is absolutely insane, basically giving all minions Death's Defense capped out by default, so they always have the capped out Death's Defense, and they've basically taken Death's Defense and reworked it, so now it offers additional damage reduction and resistances to the minions on top of what Death's Defense already did, making all the minions even more tanky. And then if that's not enough, they also went through the process of just like ridiculously making all the minions do even more damage in like a huge variety of ways. I mean, skeletal warriors, skeletal golems, we got freaking blood golem, iron golem, raised skeleton, bone mages. They even made it so that the legendary affix, which gives the blizzard effect to your cold mages, can now work on any mage and not just the cold mages. So just in general, like ridiculously large numbers of buffs to the minions, including removal of the 7 or more minion requirement on quite a few of the aspects that had it. I'm assuming to prevent the issue of causing the minimum requirement to lose you the power. So, like, say if you had like 70% damage reduction with 7 minions or more, and you lost 1 minion and you go down to 6, well, then that kind of sucks that you have 6 minions and now you don't have your damage reduction, and now all your minions are dying real fast because you lose your damage reduction. So, that's kind of a really big buff there as well. They did, however, like I said, nerf Bone Spear. The nerfs are right here. Ossified Essence from past 50 from 1% to 0.5. And then they also nerfed, like I said, I think Serration. I'm trying to remember exactly which one it is. I'm pretty sure it's Serration. Well, that's the one where Serration was showing as additive instead of positive. That's not quite the one I was looking for. But I know they did affect Bone Sphere in 2 different ways. Honestly, though, the majority of the Necromancer changes seem to focus around specifically the minions themselves. They did make some pretty darn good changes to the unique items as well, though, including a scaling multiplier on the Deathless Visage, which is pretty cool. Bloodless Scream's chill amount was increased from 40 to 100%, and it was given a multiplier. Black River gives ranks to corpse skills now, which is pretty cool. I mean, there's some pretty neat changes in here on the unique items, and we'll have to play around with them and see which ones are really good. The Rogue. Let's see. What did they change on the Rogue? I'm trying to remember everything and kind of sum it up as best I can, because I don't want to make this like freaking 3 hours long. Really, it seemed like what they focused on with the Rogue was giving the Rogue a lot of small fixes, but not necessarily like big upgrades in any way. There's not a lot of nerfs here, but it's also important to note that because the Rogue was so heavily dependent on vulnerable and crit damage, they may have been hit the hardest by the vulnerable and crit caps. I'm not really 100% sure how this is going to work out for them, but skill-wise across the board, they really haven't done like a huge amount to, hurt or even help the Rogue. There are some interesting things in here, like these ones that scale based off of various effects, like dealing a multiplier against crowd-controlled enemies. There are a couple multipliers in here that seem to scale off things like vulnerable and crit and whatnot, and these will definitely help the Rogue retain some of their power level. They basically said in the campfire that they felt like the Rogue was in a good place and didn't really need to be adjusted all that much. They did a lot of work on Grasp of Shadow, fixing the Shadow Clone, how the Shadow Clone worked, making sure that it got imbuements, and a bunch of other things. So the Grasp of Shadow gloves might actually be pretty good now. They made a lot of minor tweaks to the unique items, which should make them more attractive. And another one that they really kind of reworked was the Eyes in the Dark, which now actually increases the damage of Death Trap, and also gives you damage reduction now, as well as maximum life. They might actually be halfway decent pants now with the changes. Word of Akan also got a massive cooldown reduction of 300% of the normal value, and they added movement speed on Word of Akan. So Word of Akan looks like a pretty amazing amulet at this point, especially since it gives some pretty ridiculous buffs. I think that's pretty much it for her. I mean, a lot. I could go through every single thing. I could talk about every single thing, but two of these right here, are worth noting as well. Icy Alchemist aspect and Toxic Alchemist aspect both got buffed. Those were both really good aspects, by the way, so very nice. And also the Bursting Venom one no longer require crits and got buffed up a little bit too, which is not bad either. The Sorceress. I'm not going to call it the Sorcerer because he looks like a cross-dressing pimp. The Sorcerer has got a lot of changes that seem to be based around conjuration. Not only did they get a conjuration new aspect, they also got a lot of changes that had to do with conjuration within their tree. The Hydra itself was buffed up in damage, and they were given a lot of effects that would cause the conjurations to cost less mana, reduce cooldowns properly, and in general just dish out tons of extra damage based on certain things like your burning damage deals bonus damage equal to 10% of your total amount of your critical strike damage, plus 1% for every 75 intelligence you have. Things like this that are going to increase your damage based upon like your stats, which then feed into other things. I've noticed on here that they made a lot of changes when it came to specifically the conjuration abilities. They also did some pretty good fixes on Asus Heirloom. Apparently, it was not working properly, and buffed up Staff of Endless Rage. Staff of Lamosem got literally swapped with the legendary affix. There was the Static Clang legendary affix. They basically just took the two powers and swapped them. Gloves of Illuminator got a little bit of a buff too, with the damage penalty reduced, and also the Restore Resource affix increased by 50%. I think for the most part, all of the sorceress stuff seemed to focus a lot on the Hydra stuff. There was, however, a line in here that said that the Hydra was scaling its damage or its burning damage based off of the life of the monster, and I'm a little bit worried that that might mean that it actually got nerfed. As well as buffed, or maybe they just did both, which was, kind of interesting. Where is that one in here? Let's start right here and just do some Hydra. Here we go. Fixed an issue where Hydra's burning damage scaled with the target's health instead of the player's weapon. This was kind of like the same thing that was going on with the Druid Earthen Bulwark, where it would explode and deal massive amounts of damage based on the monster's life. So maybe it will do, I don't know, less damage or more consistent damage. It also goes down with the monster's life too. So as the monster's life decreases, if you're fighting monsters that are lower level than you, it would do less. So, I mean, technically it would go up on lower level monsters and down on higher level monsters, whatever that is. Trying to think if there's anything else to talk about here. There was tons of things in this patch, and I'm trying not to drag this out by miles, but it's really kind of difficult when there's so much ridiculous stuff going on. And there really is. There really is a lot of stuff in this patch, just in general. Like, the changes to a lot of the traps and whatnot, so that they're not like absolutely demolishing you anymore. Um, the EXP given that they increased EXP dramatically, pretty much across the board. I mean, they also went through the process of while they also reduced our damage by making caps on crit and vulnerable and things like that. They also talked about how they basically kind of brought down the monsters kind of like to our level. And I'm trying to see here if I could find this. So boop, 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 boop. It doesn't really matter, but they talked about how they basically kind of made a bunch of changes to accommodate the fact that the monsters, obviously, the players had become weaker, so they kind of like adjusted the monsters to make the monsters weaker as well, which I guess is a good thing. Where is that? Because I wanna put that one up here. I seem to be all the way down at the bottom. Alright. And they also reduced the drop rate of elixirs. That was also kind of weird. This whole eye level thing is really cool. I'm not going to lie. I'm kind of interested to see how this turns out. or basically the eye level of the monsters, or the monsters have specific eye levels that they drop, and the higher level the monster, the higher level the gear, and so it's kind of promotes you to kind of go and fight higher level monsters, which is definitely really nice. I'm kind of interested to see how that turns out in general, because I'd like to see pushing yourself against content to try and get better content is certainly not a terrible idea. Do, 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 do. So here it is right here. So all monsters and bosses across the game have been rebalanced around all other changes slated for Season of the Blood to ensure the overall difficulty of the game does not drastically change. So basically what they're saying is, and what I was talking about earlier, is that they rebalanced the characters, and then they wanted to make sure that they didn't have the monsters just stay exactly the same when the players became weaker. They did this in Diablo 2, by the way, so don't judge them too harshly. In Diablo 2, when they added synergies and they made the characters really powerful, they also increased all the HP and defense of all the monsters in the game to accommodate. A lot of people don't know this or remember this, but that's basically what happened. Everybody got stronger. Like you went from dealing 500 damage to 5,000, but then they increased the monster's HP from 500 to 5,000, so that it was basically the same. So you got extra damage, but you didn't really get extra damage because all the monsters just were adjusted to, your power level. So it's going to be interesting to see how this turns out specifically, in terms of actually fighting the monsters, because they've got. I'm pretty sure we don't know exactly all the changes that they made in this regard. Whispering Tree quests. Tons and tons and tons of buffs to Whispering Tree Crest. EXP bonus increases, better loot from them, plus 20 on the rare ones and 10 eye level on the not so rare ones. Better EXP from the Whispering rewards. They put an occultist next to the Whispering Tree. They really want us to do the Whispering Tree events. I can't even speak on how good they are at this point, because they made so many changes to the Whispering Tree that I really just don't even know anymore. It's kind of nuts, all the different changes that they made. I mean, I'm 36 minutes in, and I've barely even covered anything. I'm kind of just jumping around here and there to the important bits, but there's so much individual little things going on in between everything that there's a lot more to cover. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, should you give season 2 a chance? I mean, even if you did skip season 2 and you went to season 3, with all of the changes that are in this season and potentially whatever changes are in season 3, you might not even recognize the game when you finally come back. It seems like they are making some serious progress on fixing a lot of the issues, which is good to see. It's very good to see. So I'm going to end this on a positive note, and basically my positive note is basically this. This patch is a move in the right direction. It is a good sign that they are paying attention. They are fixing things. They fixed a lot of stuff. Do they have everything correct? Probably not. Do we have a leaderboard yet? Nope, not till season 3. Have we really gotten a huge amount of content to fix the end game so that it's not boring? I don't really know. I mean, the boss farming thing does sound kind of fun, though. I'm not going to lie. As long as the boss isn't so difficult that he's impossible, I think a lot of people are going to have fun with it. And overall, it's a move in the right direction, and I think that as a community that complains about things being wrong, the best thing that we can do is, when they make the right decision and they do the right thing, to say, hey, you did the right thing, and show them that we appreciate them going in the right direction. Otherwise, how are they going to know which way is the right direction and which way is the wrong direction? Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when it's just me rambling for 38 minutes about the patch. And as always, keep watching.